You are very welcome. It's the first video of 2021, so a happy new year as well. Skip straight to the bottom line of this video. The main theme of this video is that it seems like it's a really good idea to give more people one dose of the vaccine and then another dose 3 months later than it does to give some people one dose of the vaccine with the Pfizer vaccine, another one in 3 weeks, or with the Oxford vaccine, another one in 4 weeks. We can spread it out much more, and it's looking like the efficacy is fairly good. Now, what we know so far, these are the bottom line figures, is it looks like when people have had the Oxford vaccine after 3 weeks, none of them go to hospital. None of them get that sick from the data we have so far. With the Pfizer vaccine, it's a little more difficult to tell, but it looks like about 90% don't get sick. So greatly reduces the amount that get sick. Not that 90% don't get sick, 90% less get sick than did in the placebo group. So it looks like the Oxford vaccine is really good at stopping people getting very sick and keeping people out of hospital, which of course is what we need now. We are in a national emergency now. There's no two ways about that. And it looks like the Pfizer vaccine is giving about 90% protection from getting very ill. So that's the bottom line. Now, I hope you caught that interview with DW Wood did this morning. They're good fun, those interviews, but they're so frustrating. You've got to be so quick. It's much nicer when it's just the two of us, just having a nice friendly chat. It's much more relaxed. Now, getting on to the main part of this now. Just before we get on to the main part, rather, there's a bit of background information. The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, it looks like India has approved the vaccine. This is a Reuters report. It's not 100% confirmed yet, but it's looking almost for sure that India has confirmed the vaccine. And if it's not today, it'll be pretty soon. And this is a major step. 1.3 billion people now having access to the vaccine. And they make the vaccine in huge numbers in the Institute of the Indian Serological Institute in Pune. And I think from memory, I haven't checked this, but I think they can make about 1 billion vaccine doses this year. So this is just huge for India, huge for other areas of the world as well. So really good news on the India vaccine. And that's from India's Central Drug Standard Control Organisation, we believe. We will confirm that on the next video, but it's looking likely. And sources in India are saying that the rollout of the vaccine in India will start on Wednesday. So early next week, basically. Now, what is the position on vaccination? Well, the UK, of course, have authorised it. Argentina has authorised it, and now we believe India have authorised it. So good start for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, what about countries that really need this vaccine? So, for example, the United States and Europe come to mind. Europe has ordered 400 million doses. Transformative, absolutely transformative. Cheap, easy to transport, normal fridge temperatures, easy to give. US, as far as we know, has pre-ordered 300 million doses. So when can the good citizens of these countries expect this? Well, it's hard to say. But it looks like that the European Medicines Agency, the EMA, aren't actively considering this at the moment. Now, this is hard to believe. We have national emergencies in pretty well 27 member states. And it looks like they're not actively considering this at the moment. Now, if that's true, it's just an utterly bizarre that they need to do this as a matter of urgency. But if they're not, now it's a separate point. But today's the first day that the UK has left the European community, whatever you call it these days, the common market, whatever. So I'm not making a political point, but I really feel that individual member states such as Germany, France, well, all of them really, with good infrastructure, need to bypass the European Medicines Agency if they're allowed to do that and just give it national authorisation. Because when the UK gave this vaccine national authorisation, it was still bound by the rules of the European Union. So if the UK has done it, I don't see why Germany shouldn't do it and get the vaccine out to stop its people from dying. I think it really needs to do that, because if they wait for the European Medicines Agency, How long is that going to be? Any delay really is unacceptable. So I really hope that people start getting that out. And the United States, well, we believe that's not going to authorise it till April. Again, just absolutely incredible. And the United States has not made a great start to its vaccination campaign. We believe it's probably just under 3 million vaccines at the moment. It was supposed to be 20 million by the end of yesterday. So what is going on in Europe and the United States in terms of vaccine authorisation? If the United Kingdom and we believe Argentina and India have managed to authorise it. And the UK has skipped no stages. It's been done very thoroughly on data that's available. This data is available. And if the FDA and the European Medicines Agency have not got this data, if I was a member of one of those agencies, I would get my sleeping bag and I would sleep on AstraZeneca's doorstep until they gave me the data. I'm sure that won't be necessary. But they need to get on with this. The frustration is intolerable. Now, on a completely different topic, complete change of shift, nothing to do with what I've just said. The AstraZeneca vaccine, we believe, is going to be $2.18 per dose. Now, it's hard to tell, and I think it depends on the individual contracts, but the Pfizer vaccine looks like it's about $20 per dose. Now, I can't be quoted exactly on these. These are just from different news outlets quoting different prices at different times. I guess it depends on the deal. The Moderna vaccine, though, everyone seems to agree this is the most expensive. And of course, it's the Pfizer and the Moderna that are currently being administered in the United States. I think they're both US-based companies, mostly. And the Moderna one, you see different quotes for the cost of that, but it's the most expensive one. Whereas the Oxford AstraZeneca one is we believe, well, under $3, virtually all contracts we believe. And the Oxford vaccine, the Oxford AstraZeneca grouping has agreed not to make a profit during the pandemic, whereas the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine both have declared that they are making profits. So, as I say, completely different topic, complete parenthesis there, but interesting to note that as we pass by. Now, where is the rollout going well? Now, let's have this as a quiz. Which country is doing best in terms of per capita vaccination so far, would you think? Well, it seems to be Israel. As of yesterday, the 31st of December was yesterday, 664,000, 7% of the population so far. So Israel seems to be leading the pack. Bahrain seems to be doing well. Small population, of course, and Israel's got a smaller population. So you would expect, I suppose, smaller population countries to be doing well. But these seem to be the countries that are doing best at the moment. Israel followed by Bahrain. Then the UK, then the US. Canada, I'm not so sure about, actually. No firm data on Canada. In Europe, as far as we know, things aren't going particularly fast in Europe at all. So that's kind of where we are now. Now, this idea about giving the one dose, where did this come from? Well, the answer is it's come right from the top. It's come from the very top. Let's go and look at it. It's come from the UK government, directly from the statement from the UK Chief Medical Officers. So this is the Chief Medical Officer for England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. They all have, looks like they've all completely signed this off. Joint clinical advice from the 4 UK Chief Medical Officers on the prioritisation of first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Department of Health and Social Care. So this has come from the official bodies. Now I'm not going to read through this now. I'm going to tell you about it. But this is where it's from. So official policy now in the UK. Now let's look at the research background for this, because on this channel we always try and look at the evidence. So does this decision make sense in terms of the evidence? And the bottom line is yes, it does. But let me look at some of this. So Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, on this channel we've looked at it before, phase 2 trials. Sometimes people were vaccinated with a 56-day gap in the phase 2 trials and still seem to have a good response. And I actually remember reading this, that must be a couple of weeks ago now, thinking, oh, that's interesting. They seem to have a good response even with a longer gap between the individual doses of the vaccine. Phase 3 trials, they also had good immunity with a 6-week gap. Now, it's not what they planned, but it's just the way it worked out sometimes. That they planned to, I think on all the arms, they tried to give it with a 4-week gap in between. But sometimes it turned out to be longer because, you know, Harry didn't turn up or Joan didn't make it that day. And but they collected all this information and they could analyse that retrospectively, and they found out people with the longer delay were still getting good, if not better, immunological responses. So good that they've collected all this data all the way through. So the efficacy after one dose, 3 weeks after one dose, appears to be 64%. So 64% less people get the infection. The efficacy after 2 doses with a longer gap seems to be 70, 80 or even higher. We don't know exactly. It could be even higher because the gap in between the 2 doses seems to increase the efficacy. Interesting. But cases 21 days after the standard dose. So they give the one standard dose. Then 21 days later, we seem to have 64% immunity, as we've said. This is based on the studies that 21 days after the vaccine group got 51 infections that got the active vaccine. The control group that didn't get the active vaccine got 141 infections. Therefore, we see the vaccine group got many less infections than the control group, and the statisticians tell us that's 64% efficacy protection. So that makes sense, and that's based on peer-reviewed data from the phase 3 clinical trials. Severe cases 21 days after the first Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. So this is the really crunch part of this. How many people were severely ill or got hospitalised? So we know that the overall efficacy is going to be less after one dose, but how is it protecting people from getting really sick? Because this is what we really need to do. We need to keep people out of our hospitals because they're full, more than full. So 21 days after the first dose, in the vaccine group, no one got very sick. In the control group, 10 people were hospitalised, 2 severe and 1 dead. So what would we rather have, 10 people hospitalised or 0 people hospitalised? So from this, I know it's a relatively small sample, but it comes from the phase 3 data. That indicates that the Oxford vaccine is giving 100% protection against severe illness and hospitalisations. Now, of course, this is going to be rolled out now in the UK. This is how we're going to do this from Monday. It's how it's going to be done. So we're going to be collecting much more data. And okay, we might find out that some people who get the injection get sick after 3 weeks. Hopefully very small numbers. But so far, based on the data we have, the vaccine is very protective after one dose to stop people getting sick. Hence the change in the government strategy. So looking good. Now, what about the Pfizer BioNTech one? What about that? Pfizer BioNTech vaccine efficacy was 52% after the first dose and 95% after the second dose. So it looks like it was 52% after the first dose, 95% after the second. So 12 days after the first dose, so just thinking about one dose, the vaccinated group had 39 cases, 39 infections. The placebo group had 82. So that gives a 52% efficacy. So after one dose, it looks like it's giving 52% protection. But again, it's not really the point. It's not really the point. What we're looking at are the severe cases. So the severe cases after one dose, the vaccine group, there was 1 severe case. The placebo group, there was 9. Now, I know it's small numbers, but that already indicates that it's going to have about a 90% efficacy. Now, we could argue about that. The data is not as clear with the Pfizer one, but a 90% efficacy against severe disease. So again, quite consistent with this idea that it might be a good idea to give one. Now, the second dose will confer longer-term vaccine, longer-term immunity from the vaccine. So it will be necessary to give a second dose. So what the government are actually saying now is, with the Pfizer vaccine, give the second dose between 3 and 12 weeks, but hopefully towards the end of that period. And with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, they're saying give between 4 and 12 weeks, but again towards the end of the 12 weeks. Basically, they're saying 10, 11, 12 weeks between vaccine doses, which makes sense. Now, so this is the change to the UK vaccine protocol. Change to 1 dose, second dose within 3 months. Chief Medical Officer's prioritisation of the first dose of COVID-19 vaccines. And it comes from the UK government site. So the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Products Agency, in combination with the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. So Oxford should be 2 doses now, 4 to 12 weeks apart, but clinicians should be aiming to give it towards the end of that period. So there's a longer gap. And of course that means many, many more people can have the first dose. I actually sat down last night with a piece of paper and tried to work out how many more people could be vaccinated. So like if we gave 1 million people a vaccine 1 week, and then 4 weeks later we gave another 1 million the vaccine, how many more people could be vaccinated if we didn't give them after 4 weeks, but we gave 1 million people 1 week, 1 million people the next week, 1 million people the next week, and didn't start vaccinating people a second time for 3 months? And I couldn't work it out. But it's I think it's clearly going to be many, many, many more people can have the first dose of the vaccine. Pfizer, again, it's still 2 doses. That hasn't changed. It's 2 doses for Oxford, 2 doses for the Pfizer, but it's 3 to 12 weeks apart now. And again, giving it towards the end of that period of time is what is being advised. So Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation say this, direct quotes, will protect the greatest number of at-risk people overall. We're in a state of emergency, this is what we need. And it will do that, this strategy will do that in the shortest possible time. So makes a lot of sense. So it's consistent with the phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trial data, and it's consistent with trying to address the emergency situation we are currently in. Absolutely emergency situation in many countries. So this is the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation carry on and say this, and will have the greatest impact in reducing mortality, severe disease and hospitalisations. So this strategy is going to stop people getting very sick. They believe it's going to stop people being hospitalised, and it's going to reduce deaths. It's going to reduce mortality. So all pretty well hanging together so far, and protect the NHS and equivalent health services in other parts of the world, of course. And the second dose of both vaccines will be administered towards the end of the recommended vaccine dosing schedule of 12 weeks. This is the key change. So it's still 2 doses, but it's a longer time apart. Now, there's a book called the Green Book, which is like the holy text of vaccinations. Anyone who vaccinates in the UK has got to follow this Green Book, otherwise you're being negligent. This is what we follow. And of course, it's not a book anymore; it's all online now. I suppose you still can get it, but it's all in green. And they now have a chapter for COVID-19 SARS coronavirus 2, because we now have a vaccine. And if you've got time, this is absolutely crammed full of absolutely excellent research-based summary information on things that we've been wondering about on this channel and only found out sort of drip by drip over the past year. So I've included the links for you, of course. That's the link to the government site with the green book in it. That is the link to this particular page that we're looking at here, with the particular details about the SARS coronavirus 2 vaccine. Now, I'm just going to include some of the summary data that they have included, because I think it's just important to remember how serious this situation is. This is straight from this green book. Infection fatality ratios. 0.9% overall, getting on for 1%. And they're confident that that figure is between 0.9 and 0.9. In other words, they're pretty confident of that figure. This is not case fatality rate, of course. This is their calculation of infection fatality rate. This is a dangerous, deadly disease. That we do well to remember that fact. And when we see others around behaving inappropriately, it's sad that they don't remember that fact. So yeah, so that is quite high. This is the figure for men. This is the figure for women. So greater a risk in men than women overall. Now, of course, this is influenced massively by age, so they do include a brief summary of that, so we'll just look at that summary now as well. So, thankfully, very low in the lower age groups. It's not quite zero, but very, very low. A 45 to 64-year-old age group, 0.5, 95% sure it's there, so we're pretty happy about that figure. 65 to 74-year-old age group, it's 3.1, then 95% sure it's between 2.6 and 3.6%. And in older people over 75, averages out at 11.6, and they're 95% sure it's between 9.2 and 14.1. So I just included that because that's the first time that's been officially published in the Green Book, and they're sobering figures, there's no two ways about it. Now, direct quotes from the Green Book that just had a bit of interest. If an interval longer than the recommended interval is left between doses, the second dose should still be given. So if someone doesn't come back within 12 weeks, they should still be given the second dose. And they say preferably using the same vaccine that was given in the first dose. So that sounds like they're not insisting on someone having the same vaccine twice, the Pfizer and the Oxford, but later on they do qualify that. Anyway, they're saying the course does not need to be restarted, which is good news. You can just carry on even if there's a delay. So this longer gap does not seem to be affecting the efficacy of the vaccines. But then they go on to clarify that last bit. There's no evidence on the interchangeability of COVID-19 vaccines, although studies are underway. So we don't know if the immune response would still work if you had the Oxford followed by the Pfizer or the Pfizer followed by the Oxford. We don't know that at the moment. The data is not there, but it is being studied. Therefore, this is what they say, therefore every effort should be made to determine which vaccine the individual received and to complete with the same vaccine. So they are saying they use the same vaccine. If it was the Oxford, give the Oxford again. If it was the Pfizer, give the Pfizer again. And they also say this, there's no evidence of any safety concerns from vaccinating individuals with a past history of COVID-19 infection or with detectable COVID-19 antibodies. Now, I've been asked this question repeatedly. What if someone's already had the disease and they're vaccinated? Does that matter? Because they're already immune, why would you want to vaccinate them again? Well, this is definitively saying now with the authority from the Green Book, it's saying there is no evidence of any safety concerns from vaccinating individuals with a past history. In other words, people who've had the disease, can have the vaccine, this is saying. So I think that's mostly what we wanted to say today. I'll just include, I don't know if we can see that actually. Can we see that? Yeah. This is the prioritization of groups in the UK. So first it's residents in a care home for older adults, staff working with those, highest priority. Then the second is over 80s, third over 75, fourth over 70s, and people with comorbidities. So this is the order in which people will be vaccinated in the UK. But of course now the priority is going to be get all these people one dose, then get all these people one dose, and then get all these people one dose. Only revisiting after the 3 months, and all the way down into younger people and the general population. So we did have a few people who were vaccinated at the very start of this, who have had the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, but with this new protocol they can now wait 3 months so we can roll the vaccine out to many more people. And from what I understand and from the evidence we've reviewed, that seems to me to be a very good idea. So we are agreeing completely with the advice that's being given here. It makes read it for yourself. This is all in simple English. That's quite intelligible to anyone with, well, anyone really could understand that, I would have thought. Pretty straightforward, common sense, and it seems to me the government is responding entirely appropriately to the emergency situation we're in. Let's hope individual states start approving the Oxford vaccine, getting it out to their people because it's cheap. It's easy to transfer, they're not making a profit. Normal fridge temperatures, easy to give into the deltoid muscle, as we looked at yesterday. And we can make billions of doses for poorer countries as well. Let's hope this happens really quickly. I'm just extremely frustrated by the delays, and just hope that countries can find a way around this. Or in the states, individual states, I don't know how it works in the states. I think it's got to be FDA approved. Let's hope they get their act together on this, because April's an awful long time away. I know they're doing their own research in the states. I know they like to have data from the states, which of course makes perfect sense. But we have to balance against that the fact that we are in an emergency situation. So that is a call the FDA are going to have to make. And let's hope people are proactive about this pretty soon. Okay, so that's where we're at. Looking good. Most people in the UK, at least, more people will be protected from severe illness and hospitalisation sooner than otherwise would have been the case. So I think that's all we'll do for today. That's quite long enough. So thank you for watching, of course, as always.